The massive ship hung in space like a dark cloud. Inside, Commander Krev stood tall, his gray skin tight over sharp bones. He looked at the blue planet on the large screen. "Another simple world," he said. His voice was cold. "Show me their weapons." A younger alien named Zeth tapped on a clear panel. Images of Earth's armies filled the screen. Tanks rolled across deserts. Planes flew in neat lines. Soldiers marched in open fields. Krev laughed. It was a harsh sound. "These humans are like children. They show all their strength. They hide nothing." He had seen this 17 times before, on 17 worlds. Now all those worlds belonged to the Vraxians. "Prepare the scout ships," Krev ordered. "We will study them more closely. Then we will take what is ours." Far below, deep in the mountains of Southeast Asia, Captain Tejo froze in place. His hand went up, signaling his team to stop. Around him, the jungle was thick and green. The air was hot and sticky. "Listen," he whispered. The 4 soldiers stood still. They wore green and brown paint on their faces. Their clothes matched the colors of the forest. "I don't hear anything," said Day One. He was shorter than the others, with quick eyes and steady hands. "Exactly," said Tejo. "The birds have stopped singing." Jisoo nodded. She was the team's best shot, able to hit targets others couldn't even see. Something scared them. Hyun, the oldest of the group, touched the trunk of a large tree. "The forest knows when strangers come," he said quietly. His grandfather had taught him how to live in these mountains. Now he was the best at finding food and water where others saw nothing. Tejo looked up through gaps in the thick leaves. "We need to get higher." Without another word, the team began to climb. They moved like they were born in the trees, finding holds where city people would see none. Tejo's grandfather had taught him these skills when he was just a boy. "The ground belongs to everyone," the old man had said, "but the trees keep secrets for those who know how to ask." Now, as a special forces captain, Tejo had picked teammates who knew the old ways. Modern soldiers with ancient skills. The Vraxian scout ship cut through Earth's blue sky, its shape strange and sharp. Inside, Lieutenant Mrek checked his weapons. "Remember," he told his 6 soldiers, "these humans are weak. Their strongest weapons are simple and loud. They have nothing that can hurt us." The aliens wore body armor that glowed faintly blue. Each carried a rifle that could turn a tank into hot metal soup. "Our scans show no large human groups in this area," said Farrell, the team's tech expert. "Just trees and animals." "Good," said Mrek. "We'll land, take samples, and learn what we need to know. The commander wants to understand this world's weak points." The ship slowed and hovered over a small clearing in the endless green forest. From his spot high in an ancient tree, Tejo watched the strange ship land. It made almost no sound. The forest stayed quiet around it, as if holding its breath. Tejo and his team had been training in the jungle for 3 weeks. They were supposed to be practicing survival skills. Now they were watching real aliens. "Should we call headquarters?" whispered Day One, touching the radio at his belt. Tejo shook his head. "No electronics. Not until we know what they can detect." He pointed to his eyes, then at the ship. "Watch and learn," the gesture said. A door opened in the side of the ship. 7 tall figures stepped out. They looked almost human, but wrong somehow. Their arms were too long, their heads were too narrow. They moved with strange, jerky steps like they weren't used to Earth's gravity. "What are they doing?" Jisoo asked very softly. Her hand rested on her rifle, but she didn't raise it. "Looking," said Hyun. "But not seeing." He was right. The aliens were scanning the clearing with handheld devices. They pointed these tools at rocks, plants, and the dirt, but not once did they look up into the trees. "This planet has suitable air," Mrek said, checking his scanner. "Gravity is stronger than home, but within acceptable limits." "Plant life is excessive," complained Varn, the group's weapons expert. "Hard to see far." Mrek touched his helmet, activating a link to the ship above. "Commander, initial survey shows primitive ecosystem. No signs of the humans' presence here." Commander Krev's voice came through clearly. Good. Continue your survey. Remember, these humans build obvious defenses. Look for cleared fields, metal, structures, roads. Their weakness is their pride. They want everyone to see their strength. Understood, said Marek. A soft sound interrupted him. Something had moved in the trees. Marek signaled his team. 2 Vraxians pointed their weapons toward the noise. Probably a local animal, said Farrell. My scanner shows no technology nearby. No metals, no power. Sources. Stay alert, Marek ordered. Spread out and continue the survey. Take samples from different areas. The aliens moved in pairs across the clearing, their backs to each other. They looked ready for a fight, but they still didn't look up. In the trees, Tejo watched through field glasses. The aliens were careful, but they made a big mistake. They watched the ground and each other. They trusted their machines to warn them of danger. Tejo caught Hyun's eye and made a small climbing motion with his fingers. Hyun nodded and began to move silently through the branches, heading toward a different tree. Jisoo went another way. Daewon stayed with Tejo. This was not in any training manual. There was no protocol for first contact with alien scouts, but Tejo knew one thing. These visitors didn't come in peace. Their weapons and the way they moved made that clear. In his mind, Tejo could hear his grandfather's voice. A good hunter learns the habits of his prey. A great hunter becomes invisible to them. The aliens below continued their work, scanning and taking samples. One cut a branch from a small tree and stored it in a container. Another scooped dirt into a clear bag. Tejo watched and learned. The aliens were strong. Their tools were advanced. But they moved like people who had never needed to hide, never needed to be quiet. They moved like predators who had never been hunted. That would be their mistake. Hyun was now positioned in a tree directly above 2 aliens. Jisoo had climbed to a spot where she could see the ship's door. Daewon silently unwrapped a length of thin, strong cord. None of them had spoken a word. They communicated with hand signals and small movements they had practiced for years. Tai-ho made the signal to wait and watch. First, they would learn everything they could. Then they would decide what to do. As the sun began to sink behind the mountains, casting long shadows through the trees, the aliens finally looked up, not at the human hunters hidden above them, but at the darkening sky. Time to return to the ship, said Mrek. We'll continue tomorrow. The aliens gathered their samples and headed back to their vessel. Tai-ho watched them go. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and when it did, the aliens would learn that Earth had hunters they never expected. Hunters who lived in the trees and moved like shadows. Hunters who had been watching them the whole time. The real battle had not yet begun. Morning came with heavy fog covering the trees. Tai-ho woke before the sun. He had slept tied to a wide branch 30 feet above the ground. Around him, his team was also waking up. They ate small bits of dried meat and fruit without speaking. Jisoo checked her rifle, then put it aside. Too loud, she whispered. Instead, she pulled out a folding bow made of black metal. Her grandfather had taught her to hunt with a bow when she was 10 years old. Daewon spread green and brown mud on his face. The mud would hide his skin and stop his face from shining in the sunlight. Hyun was making something with sticks and vines. His hands moved quickly, tying and testing. Tejo watched the alien ship through his field glasses. They're coming out, again, he said very softly. The aliens walked out of their ship in a tight group. Today there were 9 of them. Their leader, the one Tejo thought was called Marek, was giving orders. The aliens spread out in groups of 3. They're going farther into the forest, said Tejo. Going to follow them, stay in the trees, no noise. His team nodded. They left their heavy gear hidden in the high branches and moved like shadows, from tree to tree. Lieutenant Marek was not happy. His first report to Commander Krev had been met with questions he couldn't answer. Where are their defenses? Krev had asked. Where do they hide their weapons? Every world has secrets, find them. So today Mrek had brought a bigger team with better scanners. They would go deeper into this green mess and find what the humans were hiding. Remember, he told his soldiers, humans are weak but many. If you see one, call the team. Do not attack alone. The forest was wet and too full of life. Sounds came from all directions. Water drops falling, things moving in the bushes, strange calls from above. Mrek didn't like it. On his world, forests were open and dry. This was like walking through a living thing. This scanner is not working right, said Farrell. It shows life signs all around us, but I can't tell what kind. Keep looking, Mrek ordered. The humans must have bases here. No one would leave such a good hiding place empty. Above them, Tejo and his team moved without sound. They had split up, each following one group of aliens. Tejo followed Mrek's group. The aliens had good machines but poor forest skills. They walked heavily, breaking sticks and crushing plants. They talked too loudly. Most of all, they never looked up. Tejo took out a small notebook and wrote down everything he saw. The aliens' suits seemed to protect them. Their weapons looked very powerful. But they moved like people who had never been hunted. He watched Mrek stop and point at something. The alien was standing by a small stream, looking at tracks in the mud. Animal tracks, said Farrell. Local wildlife. Mrek wasn't listening. He was looking at the water, thinking. Why would humans not use this water source, he asked. If they were here, they would need water. For the first time, the alien looked up into the trees. For a moment, Tejo thought Mrek was looking right at him. But the alien's eyes moved on. Maybe they're not as stupid as we thought, Mrek said. Maybe they don't build bases in open places here. Tejo held his breath. The alien was starting to understand. That made him more dangerous. In another part of the forest, Jisoo watched 3 aliens taking samples from plants. They stored leaves and flowers in clear boxes. They talked as they worked. This planet has too much plant life, one complained. It will take forever to burn it all. Jisoo's hands tightened on her bow. So they were planning to burn the forests. These weren't just visitors. They were getting ready for something bigger. The aliens moved deeper into the forest. Jisoo followed, jumping silently from branch to branch. She had grown up in mountains like these. The trees were her friends. Suddenly, one alien stopped and held up a hand. Wait, it said. My scanner is picking up something. Jisoo froze. Had they found a way to detect humans? The alien pointed its scanner around. There, it said, pointing to a bush. Something moving. The aliens raised their weapons and moved closer to the bush. A small deer jumped out and ran away. Just an animal, the lead alien said. Keep moving. Jisoo let out her breath slowly. Their scanners could find life, but not tell what kind. That was useful to know. Back on the Vraxian ship, Commander Krev was getting angry. Reports were coming in from scout teams around the planet. None had found major human bases in forests or mountains. How do they defend these areas, he demanded. All our studies show humans fight in open places with many weapons and vehicles. A young officer spoke up. Maybe they don't defend these areas, Commander. Maybe they think they're not important. Krev slammed his fist down. Everything is important in war. These humans cannot be so stupid. He touched a control panel. Mrek, have you found anything yet? In the forest, Mrek touched the side of his helmet. Nothing important, Commander. We've seen small animals, but no humans. Keep looking. Krev's voice was loud in Mrek's ear. The humans must have some presence there. Yes, Commander. Mrek ended the call and looked at Farrell. Let's split up. We'll cover more ground. Keep your scanner on and weapon ready. Call if you find anything. Tejo watched as the 3 aliens went in different directions. This was the mistake he had been waiting for. Alone, the aliens would be easier to study and easier to trap if needed. He followed Mrek, staying high in the trees. The alien seemed more careful now, moving slower and looking around more, but still, he rarely looked up. Day 1 had been setting, traps since sunrise. Not traps to kill, traps to learn. Using only things from the forest, he set up simple triggers that would show how strong the aliens were, how fast they moved, what they noticed. He watched as one alien walked right over a patch of ground he had loosened. The alien's foot sank a few inches. It struggled, pulling its foot out easily. So they were strong, Daewon noted. Another alien walked through a path, where Daewon had hung small leaves at different heights. The alien broke through leaves at 7 feet high without noticing, so they were not very aware of their surroundings. By afternoon, the 4 humans had learned much about the aliens. They met briefly in the highest branches of a huge tree to share what they knew. They're planning something bad, Jisoo said. I heard them talk about burning forests. Their scanners can find living things but not tell what kind, said Taeho. And they're strong but not careful. Hyun showed them a small piece of metal he had picked up when one alien dropped it. Their things are very advanced, he said, but they don't know the forest. They made a big mistake, Daewon added. They split up. Taeho nodded. Now we need to know if we can fight them if we have to. He looked at his team. Time for a real test. They all understood. Watching was no longer enough. They needed to know if these aliens could be fought and beaten. Jisoo, find a place to set up. Daewon, make something that will get their attention. Hyun, you and I will be ready if things go wrong. Taeho looked each of them in the eye. Be careful. We're not trying to start a war. As the sun began to drop behind the mountains, the human hunters moved into position. Below them, the alien scouts continued their search, unaware that they were now the ones being hunted. The sun was low now. Long shadows crossed the forest floor. Lieutenant Marek checked his scanner again. Nothing but small animals and endless plants. His team had found no sign of human bases or weapons. Commander Krev would not be happy. Marek touched his helmet. All teams report, he ordered. One by one, his team members responded. All except for Grawl. Has anyone seen Grawl? Marek asked. No one had. Marek felt something new, a touch of worry. He tried calling Grawl directly. No answer. Farl, find Grall's location, he ordered. Farl checked his device. His tracker shows him half a mile east, not moving. Varn, Kelv, go check on him, Marek said. The rest of you return to the ship. Stay in pairs. Up in the trees, Taeho watched 2 aliens head east while the others turned back toward their ship. His plan was working. Nearby, Daewon smiled and held up a small metal disc, the tracking device he had removed from the alien called Grawl. What the aliens didn't know was that Grawl was fine. He was just sleeping deeply after breathing air near a special plant that Hyun had crushed and placed in his path. The plant wouldn't hurt him, but he would sleep for hours. Taeho gave hand signals to his team. Jisoo and Hyun would follow the 2 aliens going east. He and Daewon would follow the others back to the ship. The forest was getting darker. Soon it would be night, and in the night, the humans would have the advantage. Varn and Kelv moved carefully through the growing darkness. Their suits gave off a faint glow that helped them see. I don't like this, said Kelv. Grawl wouldn't just stop responding. Maybe his equipment failed, said Varn. These scanners have been acting strange all day. They pushed through thick bushes. Varn's scanner beeped softly. We're close, he said. Grawl should be just ahead. They entered a small clearing. There, lying on the ground, was Grawl. He seemed to be sleeping. Grawl, Varn shook him. Wake up. Grawl didn't move. Kelv checked him with a scanner. He's alive, said Kelv. Just unconscious. No injury I can see. Let's get him back to the ship, said Varn. He reached for his helmet to call Marek. That's when he noticed the strange silence. No birds, no insects. Nothing moved in the bushes. Kelv, he said slowly. Do you hear? An arrow hit Varn's scanner, smashing it. Another arrow struck his helmet, cracking the communication device. We're under attack. Kelv raised his weapon and fired into the trees. The weapon made a high sound, and a branch turned to ash, but he was firing blind. He couldn't see what was attacking them. More arrows came from different directions. They didn't hurt the aliens through their armor, but they hit equipment, scanners, and weapons with perfect aim. Show yourselves, Kelv shouted. He fired again, but hit nothing. Then Kelv felt something wrap around his legs. He looked down. Vines were being pulled tight, tangling his feet. He fell hard. From the shadows of the trees, a figure dropped to the ground. It was Han, moving like a ghost. He touched Kelv's helmet with a small metal object, a piece of the alien's own equipment that he had changed to create a small electrical charge. Kelv's suit systems went dark. He couldn't move. Varn tried to help, but something hit his weapon hand. Another arrow, perfectly aimed. The weapon fell. Before he could pick it up, more vines pulled tight around his arms. Jisoo stepped from behind a tree, another arrow ready, in her bow. "Don't move," she said calmly. The aliens froze. They didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. Back near the ship, Mrek was getting worried. Varn and Kelv were not responding now. "Something is wrong," he told Farl. 3 team members silent. "Could be the forest," said Farl. "Maybe it blocks our signals." "No," said Mrek. "Something else." He looked around at the darkening trees. For the first time, he felt like he was being watched. "We need to," Mrek started to say. Then his scanner made a loud noise. "Movement! All around us!" The aliens formed a circle, backs to each other, weapons ready. But they couldn't see anything. In the growing darkness, where are they? Farl's voice shook. "My scanner shows life signs everywhere." "Up," said Mrek suddenly. "Look up." The aliens raised their heads. In the trees above them, shapes moved. Human shapes. "Fire," ordered Mrek. The aliens fired their weapons into the trees. Branches and leaves turned to ash. But the shapes were already moving, jumping from tree to tree faster than the aliens could aim. "They're toying with us," said Mrek. "Fall back to the ship now." The aliens ran for their ship. But the path they had followed earlier was now blocked by fallen trees and branches. "This way." Mrek pointed to a gap in the trees. They rushed through it and found themselves in a small clearing they had never seen before. Somehow they had been turned around. "Where's the ship?" asked Farl, panic in his voice. Mrek checked his scanner. "That way," he said, pointing. They moved again, pushing through thick bushes. But the bushes seemed to grab at them, slowing them. "Down." Vines caught at their feet. "Keep moving," ordered Mrek. Suddenly, a high whistling sound cut through the air. The aliens stopped. The sound came again from another direction, then another and another. "What is that?" asked Farl. "They're talking," said Mrek. "The humans are talking to each other." The whistles came faster now from all sides. It sounded like birds, but Mrek knew better. The humans were all around them, sharing information, planning. One by one, Mrek's remaining team members went silent. One would fall behind, then stop responding. Soon only Mrek and Farl were left. "Commander." "Krev!" Mrek called desperately into his helmet. "We need help. The humans are hunting us." Static answered him. Then Krev's voice came through, broken and unclear. "What? Say? Humans? Hunting?" "Yes," shouted Mrek. "They're in the trees. They're—" Something hit Mrek's helmet hard. His communication device went dead. Next to him, Farl dropped to the ground, tangled in vines and unable to move. Mrek stood alone in the dark forest. His scanner showed human life signs circling him. Moving closer, a figure dropped from the trees right in front of him. It was smaller than Mrek, but stood straight and unafraid. Mrek raised his weapon. The human, Tae-ho, pointed up. Mrek looked. In the trees above, more humans aimed arrows and spears at him. He was surrounded. "You looked for armies," Tae-ho said in his own language. Mrek didn't understand the words, but the human's calm confidence was clear. "You should have looked for hunters." Mrek slowly lowered his weapon. For the first time in his life, he surrendered. On the command ship, Krev listened to the broken message from Mrek with growing horror. "Humans hunting his elite scouts? Impossible. Send the combat teams," he ordered. "Find them." But as reports came in from around the planet, Krev began to understand. Other scout teams were going silent too. Always in forests or mountains. Always after reporting no signs of human technology. The humans weren't fighting like any species. The Vraxians had met before. They weren't meeting force with force, they were hunting the hunters and they were winning. Commander Krev paced the bridge of his ship. His face was tight with anger. 9 scout teams had gone silent. 43 of his best soldiers were missing. "This cannot be happening," he said. "These humans have simple weapons. How can they defeat our technology?" A young officer looked up from his screen. "Commander, we have found something strange. Look at these images." The screen showed pictures from around the planet. In each one, Vraxian equipment lay broken or tied with vines. Helmets with broken communication devices. Weapons wrapped in mud. "They are not trying to steal our technology," said Krev. "They are disabling it." "There's more, Commander," said the officer. "We have detected radio signals, many of them starting 6 hours ago." Krev's eyes narrowed. The humans are talking to each other now, sharing what they've learned. He slammed his fist on a table. They were watching us, learning about us. He turned to his second-in-command. "Prepare the combat teams. We will go to the surface in force. Find these tree-climbing humans and show them what real power looks like." In a cave hidden deep in the forest, Tejo watched Lieutenant Marek. The alien sat against the wall, his hands tied with strong vines. His helmet and weapons were gone. "Do you think he understands us?" asked Jisoo. "I don't know," said Tejo, "but I think he knows he made a mistake." Outside the cave, Daewon was talking on a radio. After watching the aliens for 2 days, the humans had decided it was safe to use their own technology again. Daewon came back into the cave. "I talked to headquarters. They say we're not the only ones. All over the world, special forces teams have captured alien scouts." "What does headquarters want us to do now?" asked Hyun. "Keep them alive. Learn everything we can," said Daewon. "And get ready for a bigger fight." Tejo nodded. "The aliens won't give up. They'll send more soldiers." He turned to Marek. The alien was watching them closely. "I think he understands more than he shows," said Tejo. "Good. I want him to understand what happens next." 3 hours later, the forest shook with the sound of landing ships. 6 large Vraxian vessels touched down in a line, crushing trees and plants. Doors opened and combat teams rushed out. They wore heavier armor than the scouts and carried bigger weapons. In the lead ship, Commander Krev himself stepped onto Earth soil. He looked at the forest with hate in his eyes. "Find them," he ordered. "Find them all." 120 Vraxian soldiers spread out into the trees. They moved in groups of 10, staying close together. They fired their weapons at shadows, burning huge holes in the forest. "Watch the trees," Krev ordered. "That's where they hide." But the forest was empty. No humans jumped from the branches. No arrows flew from the shadows. "Where are they?" asked an officer. "Hiding," said Krev. "Afraid of our real power." But as the day went on, doubt began to grow in Krev's mind. The humans had been so bold before. Why were they hiding now? 10 miles away, Tejo and his team watched the aliens from a new hiding place. They had left the cave hours ago before the alien ships arrived. "They're making so much noise," said Jisoo, "burning so much of the forest." "That's good," said Tejo. "Let them waste their energy." Daewon's radio made a soft sound. He listened for a moment, then looked at Tejo. "It's time. They're ready." Tejo nodded. "Let's go." The team moved silently through the trees, heading toward a mountain ridge that looked down on a wide valley. As they reached the top, Tejo saw that they were not alone. 20 other special forces teams were there. Over 80 humans, all trained in the old ways of hunting and fighting. Some had come from nearby forests. Others had been brought in by helicopter after their own battles with alien scouts, and there, standing apart from the others, was a small, very old man. Tejo's heart beat faster. "Grandfather," he said, bowing his head. The old man smiled. His face was like a map of the mountains, every line telling a story of hard years and deep wisdom. "So," said the old man, "the Star People have come at last." "Yes, grandfather," said Tejo, "and they want to burn our forests." The old man nodded, looking out over the valley. Far below they could see flashes of light as the alien combat teams fired their weapons. "When I was a boy," said the old man, "my grandfather told me stories of the Star People. He said they would come one day. He said they would be strong but proud. And pride makes you blind." He touched Teho's arm. "You have done well, grandson. You remembered the old ways. Now it is time to teach these Star People a lesson." Teho turned to the gathered soldiers. "The aliens think we fight like them, with big weapons and armies in open fields. They don't understand our ways. Today we show them that Earth is not like other worlds they have taken." He held up his hand. In it was a small metal object taken from Rex equipment. "Their technology is strong, but we have learned its weaknesses. We fight not as soldiers, but as hunters." The humans moved down into the valley, spreading out into small teams. They stayed hidden, using the trees and rocks for cover. "Commander." Krev was getting frustrated. Hours of searching had found nothing. The humans had disappeared. "They are cowards after all," he told his officers. "They got lucky with our scouts, but now they hide from real warriors." Just then his communication device made a sound. It was a voice he knew. "Lieutenant Mrek." "Commander," said Mrek, "don't trust what you see. The humans are—" The message cut off. Krev tried to call back, but there was no answer. "Find the source of that transmission," he ordered. His officers worked quickly. "It came from the valley ahead," one said. "Half a mile east." "Move that way," ordered Krev. "All teams." The combat teams changed direction, heading toward the signal. They moved through the trees with weapons ready. They found a small clearing. In the center was a Vraxian helmet with a blinking light. "It's a trap," said Krev. "Stay alert." But nothing happened. No humans attacked. The forest was silent. Krev walked forward and picked up the helmet. "They're playing games," he said, "trying to scare us." He turned to give orders and stopped. His mouth fell open. A human stood right behind him. Then another stepped from behind a tree. And another. Humans appeared from everywhere, moving out. From perfect hiding places. Some dropped from the trees. Others rose up from under piles of leaves. Some had been standing still for so long that the aliens had walked right past them. In moments, Krev and his combat team were surrounded by humans. Not just a few, but many. And not just here. Reports started coming in from all his teams. The Iber humans had surrounded all of them. One human stepped forward. It was Teho. "Your scanners see machines," he said in his own language. He pointed to his head and heart. "We became the forest." Krev didn't understand the words, but he understood the situation. Somehow these humans had turned the tables. They had let the Vraxians think they were in control, while all along the humans were the ones doing the hunting. For the first time in his life, Commander Krev felt respect for an enemy. These humans didn't fight like any species he had ever met. They fought like the forest itself, patient, quiet, and deadly. He made a decision. He would not throw away more Vraxian lives today. Slowly, he put down his weapon. His soldiers did the same. The humans had won. Not with bigger weapons or stronger armor, but with something the Vraxians had forgotten long ago. The original skills of the hunter. As the sun set over the mountains, Teho's grandfather stood on the ridge, watching the alien ships leave Earth's sky. He put his hand on Teho's shoulder. "Remember, grandson," he said, "the strongest hunter is not the one with the biggest claws, but the one the prey never sees coming." Teho nodded. The old ways had saved them, and the stars would remember. Earth is the world of hunters.